Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you are, this is episode 16 of The Way It Is podcast. I'm your host, Luca Andolfatto with Remax Service First Realty. Glad to have you here today, and with, again, the solicitation and help of my videographer and podcast master, Ben Myers. We're going to do a bit of a discussion and Q&A about real estate scams. And one of the, I'm going to guess that some, if not all of you, in recent weeks, actually, because I know I got one in my mailbox, received that sort of handwritten note that's copied in your mailbox saying, hey, we're going to buy your home for cash, and this is why you should sell it, and avoid fees and avoid this and avoid that. So I'm sure that's tweaked a lot of eyebrows, and I'm sure there's been a lot of people have maybe gone through with that process. Anyway, so we're going to talk all about that and flesh out some, I guess, pros and probably cons about why you should or shouldn't do that sort of thing. So thank you, Ben, and welcome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again. So right here, we'll have this up on the actual website. You can listen to us on YouTube. We'll have video up there. Come on, check it out. You know, I do put a lot of effort into editing that video. So
yes, please.
You know, coming a break here. So I'm sure many of you have seen these little kind of fake handwritten notes. It's essentially, how to describe it? It's like, you've seen these before.
No, and you're right. And for handwritten, I wish my handwriting was that detailed and that clear. I can tell you it's not.
I mean, they're very clearly scanned in. You know, they make multiples of these in a day. Sometimes they come with the standard mail. Other times they have a private delivery person. I have a ring on my doorbell, so I've always been curious. One time she rolled up at 11 p.m. at night, dropped it in there, and just was on their merry way.
Wow.
Yeah, so a little weird.
Interesting. Yeah, they didn't work. Well, and I'm going to guess that they pick strategically certain areas, right? Residential areas. I know where I live. I'm in Henderson Place. And so that's an older, more mature area. Mm-hmm. A lot of the homes are, they're in that 50 to 60 year vintage now. And I would dare say that even though they're turning over, there's still some original owners in those areas. And I think I'm going to use the word prey, and I think that's what they prey on, is that these, an original owner is going to get a copy of this, see it, be intrigued, and they might be in a situation where life circumstances are happening where they're going to say, you know what, this might just be the right thing to do at the right time. So
yeah, it definitely, it screams sketchy to anybody who is discerning of any sort. One of the big things that really kind of sketches it out is that cash, like direct cash, no hidden fees.
Yeah. So, so I guess here's the rub with something like this. I mean, I think we all know the adage, when it's too good to be true, when it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And so it usually is. And for those of you that have been listening to this podcast from the beginning and even earlier episodes, you know that we're in my real estate career, 33 years, the most robust, brisk, crazy market in the history of real estate, period. It's documented. It's happening. We're hitting price points that have never been seen before in Kingston and other centers. Someone sent me a screenshot of as an aside, of a house in London, Ontario, the other day. Was listed for $1.2 million and sold for $1.8 million.
Oh my God.
So, so anyway, stuff like that's happening. So when you see something like this saying, we're going to buy your house for cash, I want to scream, because first and foremost, fees or no fees, and certainly not trying to cut my own legs out from underneath me, but all commissions are negotiable. That being said, the other old adage, which I stand by, is you get what you pay for in this world. So be careful that sometimes the cheapest isn't always the best, or, we all know that. And I'm sure some of us have experienced that firsthand. So the point being that, why you owe it to yourself to get a professional opinion, period. Whether it's a real estate agent, whether it's an appraiser, or just simply calling someone off the internet, what have you, myself included. There's everyone is giving you will give you a free market evaluation. So there's no cost to getting a qualified opinion on the value of your home. That's for starters. The second is, and I go back because I've sadly been around too long doing this, but there used to be a time when the market wasn't this robust and wasn't this brisk, when it took a while for houses to sell. And, in the 90s, when it took an average of 120 days for a house to sell and the average 5-year interest rate was 12%. And there was some realtors engaging in this guaranteed sale program where we're going to guarantee the sale of your house. And I got asked on numerous occasions by prospective clients and clients saying, well, what's that mean? And what's that all about? Well, it's very similar to this. So, and my response always was, why do I want to buy your house? I mean, okay, it'd be different if you were facilitating a sale of another property and it was, and the means justified the end, I guess. But at the end of the day, the only reason someone wants to buy your house is because they think they're going to get it at a discounted price so that they can then turn it around and make a profit on it, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's no margins and there's no profit in paying you market value for a property just because.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I guess that comes down to is like, what's the scam here? Like, it must be that they heavily undercut you on the overall actual value of your house.
That's exactly it. That has to be it. I mean, and cash offers aren't cash offers. Let's understand that let's call us, what it is. Unconditional offers, which is the technical, someone can give you an offer without any conditions, meaning no strings attached, meaning here's the money. Here's the date I'm going to take possession. That's it. I'm going to pay you the balance subject to what we call adjustments, which is for taxes, and that's about it, right? That doesn't mean that someone's not going to go get a mortgage and put it on the property. Of course they are. Very few people have actual funds or disposable income sitting in an account somewhere in hundreds of thousands of dollars to drop down and buy a property. Some do. I'm not discounting that, but most don't, and they're going to go get a mortgage on the property.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now they talk about, here's the other thing, and they prey on sort of misconceptions, I guess, and misinformation. They talk about, you don't have to wait 90 days for your money. There's no closing in Kingston unless it's negotiated. That's actually longer than 90 days. In fact, the average in Kingston now is between 30 to 45 days for a closing date. So you're certainly not waiting long from the time that you get a firm sale, meaning no conditions in your offer, to the time that you're actually going to get your money. No fees. Well, again, the thing is, if someone's going to give you an offer privately written like that, you better have somebody review that document. So I would hope that you're going to get a lawyer or a notary, or a paralegal or a realtor even. I've reviewed offers for clients that are selling to family members or doing whatever. I've even acted as a consultant or a liaison for them in order to facilitate those kinds of dispositions. Because at the end of the day, these forms, and depending on what forms they're using, fortunately as realtors, we're standardized using Ontario Real Estate Association standardized forms throughout the province. So there's no surprises there. Lawyers are familiar with them. All the agents are familiar with them. If you've bought and sold numerous houses, clients are familiar with them now. So, and there's really nothing hidden in there that is going to, be a disadvantage you. There's clauses in there both for the benefit of the buyer and the benefit of the seller. At the end of the day, yeah, the alarm bell should be going off if somebody walks up to you and says, here's an offer for this much money on your house. Surely to goodness you want to take a step back and say, okay, I better review this, right? Or have somebody review this.
Well, the rub seems to be that it's always, these people tend to kind of come from the perspective of, we're not salesmen, we're not realtors, we're not car dealerships. It's always the perspective that they're not in it to make the most amount of profit off that person. But in reality, it's completely blind faith.
Again, I go back to the point though. Why are they buying your house then? If there's not an end game, which is profit, which is meaning to buy this place, put some maybe lipstick on it and flip it, or do some renos and flip it, why do it? They're not doing it out of the goodness and kindness. There isn't this giant pool of money from these guys at OttawaHousebuyer.ca or whatever they're calling themselves, saying, here, we're just being philanthropic and we're going to just give people all this money to buy them out of their homes so that we can, have a collection of properties now throughout the province? I don't think so. I not to sound too cynical, but I'd say I doubt that's happening.
So I was actually morbidly curious about these, and I actually did a little bit of research into them because I think we must have had like 4 or 5 of these things come to our house, different names, different letters. All of them seem to tie back to Ottawa, some type of property buyers group in Ottawa. And anytime you do any research on it, like, because they always try to come from like they're like a mom and pop or like a couple reno group. No, there's no information on them. You can't find them on LinkedIn. If you can, it's bare minimum. So it's quite clearly this is a front from someplace.
It is. Again, I'll tie it back into that guaranteed sale and the conversations I used to have with clients. It's like, listen, I'll guarantee the purchase of your home if you don't sell it in time. If we don't sell it in time, because the market conditions were totally different. If we don't sell it in time, I'll buy it. I'll make sure that you get out of it so that you can complete the other end of this transaction and get on with your plans, right? And some agents did it, but there was caveats. And there was caveats in the agents that were doing the guaranteed plan, meaning that I'm going to buy your home for 10% or 20% below market. I'm going to take my fees off of it, full fees off of it, because now I'm treating myself like a buyer in a marketplace, right? So It's just because I'm the agent as well doesn't mean I'm the buyer now. You're still going to. So at the end of the day, if you buy that property for conceivably 30 points less or 25 points less than even back what the market value is, well, now you've built in a buffer, right? So that if you have to actually close on it or turn it around and sell it, then you've built in a bit of a slush fund for yourself. The other thing that most of those agents did, and I'm not sure if some of them are even still doing it today, is that they set a closing date far enough in advance to try to mitigate the risk of even having to actually close on the property. Because at the end of the day, nobody really wanted to. I can tell you that right now. Nobody wants to go to the bank and get a mortgage on a property they're not going to have any use for or do anything with. Might be a little bit different now because someone wants to have a rental property or something. You never know someone's intentions, but.
So in these instances then, like, I'm guessing these are getting bought up in, like, they're clearly reaching out to areas that are outside of like Ottawa, Toronto, probably trying to look for, quick and easy buy-ups to make into rental properties.
Right. Well, I don't know. See, I don't know what the end game is. I haven't researched it that far. Again, given that they were sent to in my area and your area, which is Strathcona Park, again, another older area, potentially older demographic, original owners.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're feeding into that mindset where someone's an original owner, it's an older person that just, may not be as astute, may not have any support network in terms of children, in terms of, lawyers or anything like that. And someone's going to see that and they're going to say, you know what, this sounds really good and it sounds very easy. It's no different than you hear about these phone scams now from these other companies in terms of, send us $10,000 or whatever for this or for that. Right?
Oh my God, the CRA one's always like constantly.
So I think they're preying on people's vulnerability, if you will, in terms of being in a certain age category, and when you're in that age category, most of these people, let's face it, this is the only asset they have. This is what's going to carry them through for the rest of their days, right? Most of them potentially have been retired for 20 plus years already, right? Conceivably.
Oh yeah.
So this is all they have. And so for them, they're thinking, wow, if I can actually get that now in my, as cash in hand, maybe that's the best thing for me and I'll go rent something, So that's to me gotta be the play, that they gotta be trying to literally prey on those vulnerabilities and those that are just not in a position to really assess the risk, right? Or or to really vet it properly.
Yeah. God, I have a 80-year-old Portuguese neighbor, sweetest old man, but I just I hope he knows that this is a very obvious scam,
So I guess for me, if I'm going to offer any counsel whatsoever, and this, certainly is not for me self-interest at all. But if you do find one of those in your mailbox, call somebody, call a family member, call a realtor, call your lawyer, call someone. They're not going to charge you anything to at least investigate it, take a look at it. And like I said, there is no cost whatsoever to have a qualified person, whether it's a real estate agent. An appraiser is different, they will charge you, but a real estate agent who's worth their salt. And you can certainly go on the internet and find, lots of my colleagues and stuff, myself included, that will do a very good evaluation / letter of opinion for you and tell you what your property is really worth in today's market. And then at the end of the day, if they're willing to pay you what the market value is with no strings attached, I would still recommend you have a lawyer look at their agreement. Then yeah, go for it. If it's that good to happen, then do it. Absolutely. The other thing though, I will say this, don't sell yourself short, because that's what's happening in the marketplace now. And I'll sort of segue into this a little bit off topic, but related in the sense that most of the properties that are getting listed we're putting them on the market. We're setting them on there for about 3 or 4 days. We're holding offers, and then we're inviting all buyers to come and participate and make an offer on a certain day. And invariably, what's happening, depending on price point, is you're getting multiple offers, right? So you're getting 5 offers, 10 offers, 20 offers. I've heard of 25 offers, right? I've heard in other centers in Kitchener, 51 offers on a property, 74 offers from somebody who told me in Mississauga. So you're going to get all these buyers now that are going to bid on your property. Thereby, de facto, you're going to get more than the market value of your home. So why would you sell your home today to this unknown quantity for even market value? Let's say they'll give you market value when the potential exists to probably maybe exceed that, right? And even do better, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely made sense like for the scam back during like housing market crises, but we're not in that right now. Houses, I've heard that houses are going right now for like sometimes $100K over asking.
Easily. That seems to be the average right now, actually.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's dependent. I mean, it's all locationally dependent, price dependent, property dependent. Of course, there's those variables that come into play, but that is the market we're in right now. And so if you are selling your property or thinking of selling your property, get some qualified information, get some qualified advice, and hopefully it's me. That's my self-intent there, so self-interest coming there. But just do your research, right? And as I say, so if you are unfortunately one of not unfortunately, but if you do find yourself in a situation where you are alone and you don't have those things, please avail yourself to the resources that are available in the world. It's a phone call to a lawyer, to a real estate agent. And you know what? Moreover, people are willing to help. They really are. Professionals are willing to help.
Have you, thinking back, have you ever seen anything else similar to this where there's just been massive campaigns of scams that have been gone out specifically targeted at homeowners? No,
I haven't. You know what? I can't recall. This has always been the sort of the mainstay one and it's probably just had different iterations.
Just like the quick and easy close, pay cash. Yeah,
exactly. But other than that, no. Well, you know what? For a long time, and now you just triggered my memory. There was this scenario of the rent to own buyer. And so how much time do we have? Back in the day, again, when the market was totally different, and sometimes you just had to do what you had to do. You just kind of took the shotgun approach to real estate. You threw enough stuff against the wall and hopefully some of it stuck, So there were buyers that weren't qualified to get a mortgage, right? And so people would show up and they'd say, well, we'll rent to own the home. Meaning that, okay, you pick a price for the house, you pick a rent for the house, and then it could take various forms. And truthfully, I called it the never, never plan because it was never going to happen. And so that's why you had to build in protections for the homeowner so there was a couple of variations of that. One was you could say, okay, the house is worth X. I'm going to rent it for a year, or even 2 years, and then I'm going to pay you X in 2 years' time. During that time, I'm going to pay you so much rent. And then that's where sometimes the breakdown varied, where some people just said, no, it's rent. It goes towards rent. That's it. Some people did the other extreme where it's all going towards my down payment, towards purchasing the home. And then on closing, you credit me the price of the home less everything I've paid to you in rent, and then I'll buy the house from you. And then there was like modifications in between in terms of 50% rent, 50% goes to the purchase of the home. Again, the sad reality was, and the reason I called it the never never plan is because most of the people that were doing the rent to own, and not to be disparaging to them, they just never were going to be in a position to be able to finance the purchase of a home. And that was the unfortunate reality. So for the homeowner, if you structured it right and they didn't need the equity immediately out of their home, then it provided them a good rental.
But that's the thing,
a good tenant and a good property.
It was never targeted at those people. It was targeted at the people who couldn't necessarily pay themselves out of the hole.
That's right.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Best Buy has this thing where like they do like their own credit card so that you can finance like specific items. The whole point of it is just for people who essentially can't pay things on their own credit card. It's there for people who can't afford the item and never will.
This is a total segue, and I may get my wrist slapped, and if the phone rings, bring it on. But you know what? It's like those check cashing places. I mean, you talk about preying on the vulnerable.
Absolutely.
That to me is an affront. And they're the people, they exist because people use them. I understand the need. I truly do. But it's galling what goes on in those places. And I mean, I think even the Fifth Estate did a thing on it once, or W5 or something like that once. But the interest rate that they're charged is like just below what the maximum allowable legislated amount is, or whatever, when you break it down in terms of the short-term loans. And I mean, again, they say they're providing a service, which I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they're not. And there's those that use it. I get it. There's a need. Get it. But you are really taking advantage of someone's circumstances when you're doing that. There's no question about it. So
they're basically just the tier below loan sharking. Like they do everything they can to just sit below the legal line, you know? But anyways, kind of segueing back to kind of real estate and stuff, we got a little bit of time left. You got any recommendations for prospective realtors, prospective home buyers, property managers? Because I've heard there are rental scams on the other side of things where, say someone poses as a tenant and they try and,
Yeah, so we encountered this with my property management company a year or so ago, where, and I think it still happens every now and again, where you would get this inquiry for someone wanting to rent a property and they were not in the country. And then they would say, I'm going to see it virtually or whatever, and then I'm going to set up to rent it. In fact, what they were doing is they were scanning the internet, grabbing properties that were listed for sale, and then either somehow just pirating the images and the information. And what they would do, I'm just remembered exactly how it played out. So what they would do, for instance, is, and that because I had it happen to one of my listings or a couple of my listings, where someone would call and say, I'm calling about your place for rent. And I said, it's not for rent, it's for sale. So this scammer would, again, pirate the images, pirate the property, advertise it for rent, get some unsuspecting poor sod to give them first and last month's rent, and basically they would show up and I'm going like, the house isn't for rent. It's never been for rent. In fact, there was scams in Toronto. I remember hearing of one where, I don't know how they got away with it. I really don't, but stones, they had big stones, man. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, forged or somehow conveyed themselves to be the homeowners, leveraged the property, and then the owners came back. It was the tenants in the property somehow managed to leverage the property, get equity out, somehow like get access to funds against using the property as security. The owners came back, and now the property was like, the bank was looking for their payment, and the monies and the tenants were the people that were the tenants were long gone. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, let's face it, the world is full of those that just sit around looking for ways to find fast cash and easy money, right? Mm-hmm. I always say, you know, I think it's probably out of a DC comic or something. I don't know. But, you know, if people had always ever used their talents for good instead of evil, the world would be a better place, I can tell you. Because the effort that goes into creating these things and executing them and the time and the mindset, like, just why wouldn't you just go out and do something good for somebody? Or
I know, like,
you know?
Well, at the end of the day, if they were half as good as they said they were on these, why not just go out and become a realtor?
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say it's that easy to become a realtor.
No, absolutely not. Clearly, there's effort. But if they're putting this much effort in, couldn't they put that effort into something else, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they'd be fantastic employees, I'm sure. They'd be entrepreneurial. Like, look at the entrepreneurial skills. Like, I mean, I'm sure they could run a corporation or run their own. Like, I mean, that's why I say, like, I mean, just wow, if somebody could just focus their intentions on good, right? That would be great. So no, that's my little altruistic pump for the world. So
fantastic. Yeah. Well, you know, we're coming up on time here, so
good.
I think this genuinely covered some stuff for, you know, renters to be aware of, for homeowners to be aware of, and, you know, property managers. Yeah.
And so, you know, at the end of the day, again, just not to sound like a broken record, but just take a step back. If you don't understand something, ask questions of the right people. Just don't blindly go into these things, because they could have very drastic repercussions. Really, they could. So,
absolutely. All right.
Thanks everybody, and we'll see you at the next one. So.